Hi, we should be live on Uncanny Adventures with our adventure Beneath the Burning Sun, a Call of Cthulhu Old West adventure. Hello, everyone. Hi, Dylan. I saw you out there. And hello, everyone in chat. Let us know if the audio is okay. Audio and streams, always fun. But we're back. Last time we played, there was some interesting happenings here in the town of Shade. The investigators went to look into a certain medicine man and his cure-all concoction, and there was quite the chaos that ensued there. I don't think anything went as anybody expected. There was some smashing of bottles, some angry shouting from the medicine man, and uh, you know, the Marshal and Samuel Smith tried to pay him a little bit to make up for his losses. And then everyone headed back after Baxter had taken off, and I think licked out of there with a free sample, maybe. And the Marshal and Samuel went looking for Baxter, and happened to hear a shout in the street of a rider as news spread quickly that the bank was being robbed, and they made their way there. Discovered that the town's marshal had been called away for some missing cattle outside of town at one of the ranches, and took it upon themselves to deal with the bank robbery. Someone was shot, somebody was killed. Baxter put down the robber, who is lying on the floor in his pool of his own blood, and the doctor is treating the young woman who works with her father at the boarding house. And so we're going to say hi to everybody, and we're going to jump back in and see what happens. As the last thing that occurred was the mayor ran up to the bank, searching for his young daughter, who apparently has disappeared, perhaps taken by the bank robbers. So we're going to go around, and we'll start with Anarchdovey. How's it going?
Yeah, hello. I'm Anarchdovey, and I will be playing Baxter uh, Duff-Banford, and uh, he's the scoundrel of the group.
Scoundrel. Can't wait to see what he gets up to. All right, and how about our Samuel Smith? Right, how's it going?
It's going good. How we doing?
Good.
Eager to get into this game. We got some stuff to figure out.
Indeed. And what about you, Theater Nerd? What's up?
Not a whole lot. My birthday is not tomorrow, Tuesday, but the next Tuesday. Fun fact. I took the day off. Why? Because I'm turning 29 and I'm old enough to make those decisions. Totally derailed my thought. My train of thought. I am playing the Marshal today, who is, who is. She's a little distraught about what just happened. Partially because I think she thinks the young man was set up by the Shallots or someone. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what all these threads that we have weave together to look like in their final finished tapestry. To use to finish my thread pun.
Excellent.
But I'm excited.
Well, and you should be. So we come back and we fade back in. You are all still at the bank. The doctor is treating his patient. The mayor is yelling from the front porch about his daughter. And you can hear, all of you, the sound of horses approaching from somewhere nearby, but not quite outside of the bank just yet. And you can hear the milling crowd of people out in the street as well. So,
is there a basin of water somewhere? Because I imagine the Marshal's hands are covered in Julia's blood.
There is a trough of water out in front of the bank.
Don't exactly want to scare people by walking out with bloody hands. I think I'm going to check the guy the dead guy, since the doctor seems to be tending to the wounded.
All right. So you're going to walk over to the would-be bank robber who is lying on the ground. Why don't you give me a first aid roll?
Can I do spot hidden? Just because I'm going to look for like surface signs like breathing, or is
Sure.
that still first aid?
I'll let you just to get an idea to see if you see him breathing to do a spot hidden.
Yes.
All right. So looking at him, he does look like he is breathing, but his breathing is very shallow.
I guess I'll attempt first aid. But before I do that, did somebody say they took his gun?
I do
No.
believe you you made sure to remove his weapons from the near vicinity of him.
Cool. I'm not gonna move him too much. I mean, I feel rather indifferent about him, other than I think he just got messed up in a bad crowd. So I'm kind of conflicted at the moment. I'm going to attempt to first aid him.
Okay.
If I
The-
fail miserably, I don't
Is-
feel too bad.
Isn't the doctor here with us?
The doctor
Yes, but
is
the
there.
doctor.
He's attending to Julia next to you, who also was wounded. So he hasn't had a chance to get over to this young man yet.
Not
Baxter.
not a critical failure, just not doing a good job.
Baxter will be the like ripping off the drapes
Mm-hmm.
and like getting and using his like knife to get some cloth and like tying up the trying to help out the help Marshal.
All right, I will give you roll with one advantage die since you are trying to use extra material to staunch the bleeding.
First aid.
Oh, great. Yes. So you have this heavy material that is the curtains that were hanging in the broken window. So what do you do with this as you see he's bleeding from a kind of a wound in his abdomen?
Yeah, I'll be taking out the large chunk and putting it around his like waist a few times, and his bleeding hand and getting smaller pieces and
And roll me a d3. Let's see how well you stitched him up, how many hit points you give him back.
wait, D3.
Nice. Well done. So Baxter does a very good job of triage right there in the bank and manages to close up the wound and tie it off tightly. And you hear him like kind of groan in pain, but his breathing eases just a bit. And he seems to be, at least for the moment, out of immediate danger of dying.
Meh. Are there bottles of anything nearby? Or cups or anything?
Just give me a spot roll, just to take a quick look around to see if you can find anything.
God dang it.
You're looking
Okay,
around.
I'm just walking out the door at this point. I think I'm frustrated. I'm useless inside. I'm going to go out to the trough. My hands covered in blood, probably blood all over my shirt and my pants at this point, between the kid and Julia, and I'm just going to stick my hands in the water.
All right. What are you doing, Samuel, while Baxter and the Marshal are handling these things?
I guess I'm keeping a lookout. I really don't. Trying to, I guess, investigate what else is going on.
All right. So if you're keeping a lookout, as the Marshal is coming out and just dropping her hands into the trough, which just roll me a power roll, Marshal.
Why you do this to me?
You might have still be.
All right.
Finally!
You watch the marshal move toward the trough of water, and there is a significant hesitation before you see her just plunge like hands deep into the trough. But there's probably an involuntary like shudder that you notice, Samuel, as this occurs. Like the marshal really doesn't want to, but gotta get these hands clean.
And I think it's unconscious. I don't even think she realizes that the shudder happens.
Seems a whole bunch of folks around here have some water issues today.
Well, Samuel, I don't know if you remember the man who tried to drown himself in the trough.
This morning, yes.
Was that this morning?
It's been a long day already.
I've lost track of time. I didn't sleep very well. No, I slept really well, but I woke up like a horse kicked me in the face after our drinking game. So it's kind of the days have blurred together for me, or the day has blurred together for me.
Well, I have some information that might make this day a little bit longer. Apparently, those ruffians ran up to the hills while we dealt with with our friend inside.
Okay.
Seems like they left that guy as a
scapegoat
or patsy. Yeah, scapegoat is probably a good word for it. Seems like a lot of this is connected.
Well, out of character, does Reedstrom know what's happened to his daughter?
He seems to know that she's missing. He's on the other side of the porch, like frantically looking about. You see him grabbing individuals and asking if they've seen her.
What was his name?
His name was...
I'm pretty sure you gave it to us. I just don't remember.
I do believe I did. Mayor Dobson.
No. I'm talking Julia's father. Isn't that...
Oh, Julia's father. Julia's father is not out here. He was still at the boarding house.
Well, I think I would probably talk to the mayor before we go and do anything rash. Because at this point, the guys are gone into the hills. I don't know that we would be able to follow them or have an easy time following them if we can. And as the only marshal in town at the moment, I think...
You say that as the sound of the horses gets very close, and rounding the corner is the marshal and about 3 other individuals riding back in this direction.
I was so nervous that was going to be someone else to deal with. I mean, fight, confrontation, deal with, not social deal with. Fantastic. I think I will probably get some more information from Dobson, because as far as I know, his young daughter isn't in the bank, correct?
You did not see her amongst the people in the bank. No.
I didn't exactly look for her either, but cool.
And who got shot outside the bank?
So a young woman who was in the bank got shot, and the other woman in the bank, it looked like she was one of the bank tellers. It looked like the other woman was probably her sister. They're very similar in look. So she got shot. She's the one that Billy Stevens pulled out in the front door and shot from behind, and then just shut the door behind her. And then Julia Reedstrom got shot in the bank at some point prior to you all getting there.
Because as far as we saw, the only person that was shot by this kid was the lady who was pushed out the door.
Yeah, she is the only one that you saw him actually shoot.
Okay, cool. Can I actually wait for and fill in the actual town marshal on everything that just happened and everything we know?
Yes, he rides up. You see Marshal Otis dismount from his horse, and you can hear him right away. What's going on here? What happened here? What's all this ruckus? as he storms up through the crowd of people who start kind of shouting at him all at once. And he kind of does a double take specifically at you, Marshal Wallace, because of the blood, and he marches up towards you. And as the mayor like sees him and rushes forward, Mayor, what happened here? And he like gives you an up and down look, looking at all the blood and things like that you're trying to wash off.
There was a bank robbery. I tried to help the victims. I don't think this was his masterful plan. I don't think he was the mastermind of the plan. But there's a young kid who we've incapacitated who may or may not make it. But we staunched the bleeding as best as we can, and the doctor's inside with the other casualties. Casualties isn't probably not the proper word.
Victims?
With the rest of the people who were at the bank who were shot. We believe that some ruffians came into town, used the kid as a scapegoat, and left the town.
Is there anyone that's able to talk? Any witnesses that we can talk to here? And you know for sure the bank manager and the other teller, who is a bit distraught. Someone's consoling her as they're trying to keep her from seeing her sister. Someone has brought like a sheet and has kind of covered up her sister until somebody can help take her away from the front porch.
Well, the murder victim's sister, who is also a bank teller, and the bank manager are the witnesses, and possibly Julia Reedstrom, should she make it through her gunshot.
All right. And he kind of kneels down and looks under the sheet, puts it back down. Edith Dooley. What a shame. Nice girl. He looks around, sees her sister kind of hugging someone in the crowd, and he nods. And he's looking around. He's like, where's the bank manager gotten himself off to?
I was supposed to watch him. I've kind of had my hands full. No pun intended, sir. With trying to handle the scene as best as I could.
No, that's fine. Eugene, where are you? He starts yelling around the crowd. And you see the bank manager poke his head out from inside the door of the bank. I'm here, Marshal.
Oh, Eugene, Mr. Bank Manager, sir, I will pay to fix the window.
Oh,
it just seemed like the quickest way into the bank.
Oh, very kind. Very kind.
Someone may not be pointing a gun directly at me as I walk through the door.
No, thank you for doing what you did. The poor boy was getting very unnerved after the others left him here.
Do you have a description of the other men?
Well, yes. There was a group of them. They came in, and so there was that reverend fellow that wanders about town in the big black hat, and he it was him and that boy that's in there, the young man, and another man who was a little bit older than him, and they came in, and they yelled for everyone to something about entering paradise and saving our souls, and that they were going to rid us of our worldly wealth, and then we would be prepared for a resurrection. When none of us seemed to really understand what he was talking about, the man, the preacher, the reverend, he drew a gun and he demanded the cash in the teller's drawers. And there was the one at the front door guarding the front door, and then that boy, he was helping this strange fellow, sort of kept his face covered, had very distinct guns on his belt, very, very fine looking weapon. So he babbled about, it seemed like he was reading sermons from a book he held, but I don't recognize it. It wasn't the Bible, and it didn't make any sense. And then once they had all the money, they gathered us all up, and most of them left, but they left the boy behind, and they told him that someone was supposed to bring a horse and come back for him, but then no one came back for him, and we all heard someone yelling about the bank robbery in the street, and he started to panic, and I think that they left him on purpose.
Seems reasonable. Seems highly likely.
Wait, so Reverend as in the guy...
Bowman? Was it Reverend Bowman? Or is there another Reverend in town? We haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet.
Well, there's this fellow, Reverend Smythe. He's,
Yeah, it's not the same person.
Yes, he doesn't live in town, but he comes into town and preaches his sermons and yells about resurrection and saving someone's soul for most of the day, and then he leaves again and comes back a few days later.
Are we speaking of the Christian God here?
I don't think so. Well, I mean, it's possible, I guess. A really extremist version of Christianity.
Sister Michal had an extreme interest in this Reverend Smythe along the same lines of his misteachings and poor actions not reflecting well.
I feel like she could probably talk some sense into him.
Well, the other thing too was one of the robbers, he wasn't with them when they first came into the bank. He showed up shortly after, and he brought the mayor's little girl with him and handed her off to the Reverend before they all rode off, and the Reverend took her out of here with him. So that's the last I saw of that child.
They're fluffer. Kind of didn't want to go after him without the sister. But I think we don't have a choice if he has the kid.
The mayor is standing on the porch and says, They took her? They took her? Marshal, you have to get a posse together immediately. You have to go after my daughter. She can't stay out there with these ruffians.
We will take care of this with some haste.
And Marshal just says, yes, it's a very good idea. In fact, the town will offer to pay $25 per person who rides out if you go with us to bring back the mayor's daughter and to bring these criminals to justice. Dobson, the mayor, says $25. I'll pay $100 a person, whoever goes out and helps bring back my daughter.
Yes, of course. I would like to let Reedstrom know what has happened to his daughter before we go. Can we have 10 or 15 minutes to prepare to...
Don't you worry. We have to go by the general store. There's some things we need to pick up. And as he's saying that, a young man who's probably about 24 years old, you all haven't seen him before, but he's dressed in, kind of nice dress slacks and a button-down shirt, and he's got a buttoned vest, and he steps forward and he says, Marshal, I'd like to join up this posse, please. And the marshal looks at him and says, Mr. Ports, are you sure? I mean, you're a school teacher. And he says, yes, sir, but there's a little girl who I'm quite fond of. She's in one of my classes, and I'd like to help bring her back, so I would like to volunteer, sir. And he says, well, I mean, I think the more we have on hand, the better, especially if we don't know for sure how many we're coming up against. He says, all right, son. He says, have you met? And he points out Samuel and Marshal Wallace and Baxter. They've only been in town a short time. He says, no, I haven't had the pleasure. Nods at each of you.
This would not be the circumstance I appreciate, or I expected to meet more of the townspeople, so.
As you say that, a well-to-do looking man with kind of a suit jacket over where he's got his gun belts. He's got 2 guns under his shoulders. He strolls forward, and he's flanked by 2 cowboys behind him. And you hear the marshal mutter under his breath, George Martin. And he steps up on the porch and he says, well, me and my boys here are going to come with you because we can't have this lawlessness in our town. And since we are responsible for making sure that these things don't happen, we're going to step in and join this group as well. And he just puts himself on the porch.
Under whose authority are you responsible for that?
I am a duly elected leader of a local group that is taking responsibility for maintaining law and order here in the vicinity of the town of Shade, ma'am.
So you're vigilantes. All the elected vigilantes. She's not dealing with anyone's crap today, right now.
Militia, Marshal.
What does Baxter say?
I said, they are militia, Marshal.
Yes, it is the one in charge of the little homegrown militia. And he sort of ignores you, Marshal Wallace, and kind of puts himself right next to Marshal Otis. And he draws out one of his guns, and he doesn't point it at anyone, but he's kind of like waving it in the air over his head. And he starts yelling at the crowd, we want justice, right? And some people are like, right. And he's like, we're going to bring them in, and we're going to show them what it means to commit a crime in our town, right? And the marshal's just like, oh.
Sorry.
I think both marshals are like...
What's that, Baxter?
That I am not going. I'm 15. I'm staying here. I have a job interview.
This is the most responsible I've seen this kid ever.
But the thing is, Baxter, this is one of the people that you're supposed to have a job interview with.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying that then. Because then
I knew it was too good to be true.
Because I would recognize them probably. But yeah. I'm not saying that then. Okay.
And the 2 gentlemen who are standing with him, they both appear to be about the same age as the school teacher, but much more rough and tumble, and they're both armed, whereas the school teacher is not currently armed.
Can I give him the kid's pistol? To the school teacher?
Sure. He looks at you and he's like, thank you. My name's Henry, by the way.
Nice to meet you, Henry. Can I trust you with this?
Of course.
I would hate to see you hurt yourself. You seem like a very nice man, and the children of Shade are lucky to have you as a teacher.
Oh, thank you very much.
Actually, I have a question.
Yes.
What size is the shotgun?
Oh, the shotgun that he had was.
And what kind of shotgun? Yeah, what kind of shotgun is this? Is it like?
It
like,
was.
Is it like bottom loaded or is it double barrel?
So he had a 10 gauge shotgun.
Okay, so it's.
And it was so his shotgun shot slugs and not, he didn't have it loaded with like the shot,
buckshot.
You know. Yeah, he didn't have it loaded with buckshot. It was just slugs. So, but yeah, the young man in the bank had a 10 gauge shotgun. So Marshal Otis looks around.
I'm talking about
Yes.
the model. Like, yeah, I'm talking about the model. Is it like break action or what?
It is. So it's a 2-barrel break open model.
Okay, so yeah, break action.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, cool. And I'm assuming it's just normal length that has not been shown off.
Yes, just normal length. So Marshal Otis looks around at you all and he says, "All right, Mr. Potts, and yep, Mr. Martin and your fellows." And he looks amongst the rest of you. Are you all want to join up? You want to go too? Help us find this little girl and bring these people in?
Of course, sir.
Yeah.
All right. We got to get ourselves some things from the general store, and then we'll get some horses from the livery, and then we'll follow these men, and we'll bring back Margaret, and we'll either bring them in alive, or if they put up a fight and they want to go out and meet their maker, then that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna send them to meet their maker, but hopefully we can bring them in alive and put them to trial.
Can I ask you a question? And I don't know if the marshal knows this answer.
Mm-hmm.
Was the dreams foreshadowing at all of the nonsense they were spouting before they... Is there any way I can think about it in relation to what's happening?
Why don't you roll me? I would say you could roll me either intelligence, psychology, yeah, I'd say either an intelligence or a psychology roll, just to see if anything kind of...
Probably better this way. That I don't think about this too hard for too long.
Yeah.
I would like to stop by the livery and get my start getting my horse saddled by like the boy who works there with whose family owns it. And I would like to talk to Mr. Reedstrom at some point.
Okay. Well, Marshal Otis does sort of round you all up, whoever wants to join this posse, and he starts leading you. He grabs the reins of his horse that he had tossed to somebody as he dismounted, and he starts leading you back through town and heading for the general store, which is close to the boarding house. So you can, if you want to, drop into the boarding house.
Probably going to tell him that I need to get some of my supplies from my room at the boarding house. I should be real quick here.
Okay. All right, so you break off and you head into the boarding house to collect your things and to go talk to Lance and let him know what's happened to Julia.
Correct.
All right, and are Baxter and Samuel going to go with the marshal, or do you go with the rest of the group to the store to get any kind of supplies or anything?
I'm going to the store.
Okay.
Yeah, the store sounds good.
All
I'm
right.
going to need the thing, what is it? What they have.
Okay. So Marshal Otis takes the group of you into the store, and he quickly goes up to the area where they have all their weapons and things like that. And he starts to take down and hand out to each member of the posse a Winchester rifle. So he collects out, and so each of you that are there, he hands a Winchester rifle. He gets one for Marshal Wallace as well, and he grabs an extra one just to have. He gets some box of ammunition for each person who volunteered, and he hands those out as well. And this kind of larger woman, Edith Parker, who is the one of the proprietors of the store. She and her husband run the store. She's helping you, while her tiny little skinny husband sort of runs to get some extra ammo from the back, and he brings it back out and he kind of gives it to the marshal, and the marshal tells her, Edith, when I get back, you'll be paid in full for everything that we had to take and to use for this situation. And he gives her a nod and says, thank you very much. If anyone else needs anything for this, take it now, and Edith will make a note. So do Samuel or Baxter need to pick up anything else to take along with them?
Trying to find it.
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
The equipment thing. Found it. I think sorry.
No worries.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I need anything.
Okay.
So yeah, it's. So wait, what kind of rifle is it? It is.
So
Put
they
down the
give
stats.
you a. He handed out the 4440 Winchester rifles to each person in the group.
Okay.
And he gives everybody. He gives each of you, we'll say, 2 boxes of ammunition apiece. So you've got plenty of ammo for this rifle. And he leads you back out of the general store. And as you were all sort of moving out into the street, Edith, you hear her, hold up a second! And she comes storming out onto the porch. And she is dragging her little husband by the scruff of his neck. And she's got him by the scruff with her left hand, and she's got another rifle in her right hand. And she turns him around to look at her. She shoves the rifle against his chest, and she turns him back around and pushes him towards your group. And she says, don't you dare leave without this husband of mine. Maybe when he comes back, he'll be more of a man. Get going. She gives him kind of a kick in the rear end. And he just comes stumbling forward, holding onto the gun. Hello. Oh dear. I guess I'm joining your posse then? The marshal just looks at him and looks at the rest of you. This is Mr. Parker.
You seem to be shaking in your... Oh, I'm not there. Never
You're
mind.
not there yet, yep.
Although I'd probably be laughing my ass off if I was.
He gives a look around at all of you, and he just looks like the most terrified little guy. Like, he's probably just barely taller than maybe 5'2", and there's like nothing to this little guy. Like, he even has little like glasses on, and he's wearing like the most pristine pressed like outfit, and he's got these nice little shoes on, and he's just standing there holding this rifle that's as big as his torso.
Well, let's get along here.
And while you're all in the general store, so Marshal Wallace, you go into the boarding house, which is on the opposite corner from the general store, and Lance is just puttering around, kind of picking up stuff and sort of putting chairs kind of in their place that were moved while people were inside. And he looks over at you and he says, hello there. What's all the commotion?
Mr. Reed Stumpstrom, could I have a word, please? You might want to sit in one of those chairs you've been moving.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm good standing right here.
I would recommend you sit down in one of those chairs.
Do you want to
If I have to convince him, I will convince him to sit down in a chair.
roll a persuasion for me?
I'm covered in blood that he should know something.
You are,
happened.
and he's giving you a look, but he doesn't look like he wants to sit down. He kind of gives you a look, notes the intensity with which you say it, and he says, "Oh, I think I'll sit down then. Is everything okay?" As he pulls out one of the chairs and he sits heavily down in it, looking at you.
I think she sits down, like, at the same table with him. Well, sir, there was a bank robbery, and your daughter was shot.
What? No, she just took the deposit. What? He, like, stands up and the chair goes tipping backward. What? He just starts running for the door.
Lance, she's in the care of the doctor already. There isn't going to be much you can do at the moment.
He's looks back and he's like, just looks around and he says, "No, but I have to go and see if she's all right.
I just left her side. I promise you she is okay.
Well,
she's in good hands.
I'm going to go check on her anyway.
Are
you coming too?
The boarding house.
I'll worry about that. I'll send someone back."
Well, a whole bunch of us are riding out to save the mayor's, or try to save the mayor's daughter, who was kidnapped in this bank robbery.
Wait, little one, Margaret?
Yes.
Oh. All right. No. I'm gonna go check on Julia, and you should go if you're gonna go. If the little one's in trouble, and I'll send someone back to check the boarding house. And
I just have to grab a few things and, like, change my shirt. I'll be good to go. Should I lock the door behind me?
No, just close it. And he kind of goes out the door and sort of leaves it a little bit ajar. So the rest of you see Lance Reedstrom kind of dart out of the boarding house and race back up the street heading in the direction of the bank. So what are you picking up, Marshal Wallace?
I'm changing my shirt for sure. Mm-hmm. Probably my pants. Probably gonna also find a fireplace or throw them in the stove, because I'm never wearing them again. I like being intimidating, but that's not the reason I want to be intimidating or persuasive under normal circumstances. I think I also splash water on my face. And just try to, like, wipe my face from sweat and tears and probably blood that I, didn't realize I was on my hand and, like, spread on my forehead. I've done that with paint before, and or gotten it in my hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she just makes sure she has, like, ammunition for her handguns. And I mean, she doesn't have a rifle of her own, so probably just checks over her revolvers, reloads them again, since I shot a couple of times out of both of them, and just sighs and goes to make sure her horse is tacked up.
All right. So you come out of the boarding house and see the rest of the group heading for the livery, with the marshal leading the group. You do see the larger, taller man, George Martin, kind of marching along shoulder to shoulder with Marshal Otis, looking like he's kind of blustering to be like an equal in that sense, and wanting to make sure that he's perceived as that amongst the group that's moving along. So, and you could see Baxter and Samuel amongst them, and you definitely can pick out that they've all, at least a bunch of them, have rifles that they didn't have before. And you see this smallish man, like, double stepping to keep up, and he's like having trouble like carrying this Winchester that he's trying to hold. So he's probably at the back of the pack, just trying to keep up as you come up on them. And he sort of
Baxter
looks.
is likely taller.
Yes, Baxter, you are definitely taller than this man. He is a little guy.
And he's in the back of the group.
He's kind of bringing up the back.
You, sir, with the gun, who's like that's twice the size of you.
Hello.
Are you sure you want to be coming?
Edith said I have to come with you.
I would. What if I cover for you?
Oh,
Go hide somewhere.
Oh no, no.
Oh, better. I have the perfect plan for you. Oh no, that's probably too close. I don't know who Edith is though, so I have no idea.
Edith says I have to go along, that this is going to make me more of a man out of me, and I'm not supposed to come home until I figure out what that means.
Oh man. I really can't deal with another dead person today.
I'm not dead.
So please don't die?
I don't intend to.
How about you stay very far back and we'll talk about, I'm sure Samuel, or you could have a conversation with Baxter here, could give you some tips on being a man.
Hello.
Marshal, don't belittle him. This is a learning experience.
We could always use a lookout.
I can see very well with my spectacles on.
Someone has to stay with the horses anyway. If we have horses.
I may be allergic to horses.
Oh, for God's sake, your wife
We'll
is
find
trying
something
to
for you to do. Don't worry about it.
Your wife's trying to get you killed.
That's between him and his wife now, isn't it?
I gotta pretend nothing illegal is happening.
Oh, all right. Well, I hope she's not trying to get me killed. She's generally very nice when she's not mad at me.
What did you do to get yourself in the doghouse?
Mostly I'm just me.
Oh man. Okay. We'll find you something to keep you safe.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. And he like pulls at. He's got this sad droopy mustache that he starts to pull at with his hand. All right, I'll do my best. So, Marshal Otis leads you quickly to the livery, where he looks around at you all and says, "All right, who here has a horse? And if you have a horse, saddle it up, get it ready. And whoever doesn't, we're going to be taking horses for those who need a horse for themselves." And you see Jake Parker go, I don't own a horse of my own, sir. He's like, we'll get you a little one.
Can I get him a donkey?
You could, but a donkey might not keep
slow.
up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. I kind of don't want him to keep up. Like, I feel like the safest place for him is nowhere near us. I wouldn't do that. I want to get him out of the doghouse. So I go and start saddling up Marshal, my horse.
Okay.
Not the Marshal, not Shade's Marshal.
I'm saddling up my horse, whose name is... I think I've forgotten it. I need to look our first game when I named it.
I've got that somewhere. I'll have to find it. I wrote down everybody's horses' names.
I do know that it is a mare.
I do remember that.
Only idiots ride stallions.
You do find sort of coming down the street from the direction of
Did we lose her again?
You lost your voice.
Yeah, the audio cut out again, Jeanette.
So,
Okay.
You think we could play charades? Might be fun.
telling you, the last week or so, my computer has had the weirdest bugs. I don't even know. So, anyway, you see Sister Michal coming back from the direction of the medicine man's kind of cart, and she kind of gives you a quizzical look as to what is going on in this moment.
Well, there was a bank robbery and simultaneous kidnapping of the mayor's child. So we're going to get the mayor's child. Or at least that's our goal.
An innocent child, I see. Well, I should ride along to keep an eye on you.
I mean, that might not be the world's worst idea. Reverend Smythe might be at the hands of this bank robbery.
An eyebrow raises, and she nods. I definitely should come along and see what's going on with this reverend as well.
Hey, you can keep an eye on Mr. Parker, and you both can stay out of the line of fire, okay?
When Sister Michal looks at him, you see him just sort of like melt back away, like just her look in his direction is intimidating enough to kind of like startle him. Maybe perhaps it reminds him of the looks he gets at home very often. He disappears.
It's floppier than a wet noodle.
So, and he attempts to saddle up the smaller of the horses that are provided for those who don't have them, and prepare himself to ride with you all to find these horrible bank robbers and bring them to justice.
Oh.
So, once you all get your horses situated, saddled up, you get your saddlebags loaded up with anything you need, set your weapons, your if you have a rifle, set it into the saddle, in the holster in the saddle. Everyone gets mounted up, and Marshal Otis leads you. You ride back through town, and you kind of see various townspeople sort of watch as you go down the main street. When you pass the intersection where the bank is off to the right, you can see that the crowd has dispersed quite a bit. You see Mr. Reedstrom helping the doctor and a couple of people carry Julia. They sort of have her on kind of like a
makeshift stretcher.
Makeshift stretcher, kind of, and they're sort of carrying it, heading in the direction of the doctor's office. And their eyes sort of turn and watch as you all ride by. And when you finally make it to the far side of town, on the road that leads out and up into the mountains, Marshal Otis looks around and says, "Well, we know that they headed out this way. That's what we were told. Why don't everybody look around, see if they can find any signs of their tracks, and then we can start giving chase and seeing if we can't close the distance and catch up with them."
I'm assuming this is a track.
This is a track roll if you want to try to look for signs of where they went.
Yeah, that's kind of a thing a marshal should do. God do it! I can't do anything tonight.
See.
Useless.
What about Samuel? So you want to give it a go?
I'm not that great at it, but
All right.
That's okay. The person who is managed to fail.
So let's see.
Does Marshall want to push the roll?
No, Marshall.
No.
let's see, because there's a couple other members of the posse who can.
If I would have had Samuel's role, I would have just lucked it into a success.
It's true.
That's
all right.
worth the luck.
All right. So, one of the two gentlemen who has joined the posse with George Martin, he sort of hops down from his horse and he kind of looks around. And it takes him a little bit, but he looks up and he points and he says, well, if I'm not mistaken, it looks like they headed out that way. And he points sort of north. I think the nearest thing heading that way is, what? He looks at the other one that's with them. Hobbs Farm, right? That's north up that way, right? And the other one nods at him. Yeah, Hobbs Farm. Yep, it's definitely that way. And so he mounts back up, and George Martin looks at them and says, Cliff, Ralph, you better get yourselves up to Hobbs Farm fast and make sure that nothing's happened to that family. Because I think we got some slower people riding with us. Go, boys. And before Marshal Otis can stop them, the two of them kick up their horses and just take off heading north up the road at full sprints.
Can I follow them? Because I trust them about as far as I can throw them.
All right. So when they take off, you can roll me a ride roll to see if you can spur your horse to follow after them fast.
50-50 chance, guys.
So wait.
God damn it!
So
I
who
quit.
was the
Done with tonight.
who was the guy who found it and went to the farm?
So the two sort of cowboys, the cattle ranchers who came in with George Martin, the well-to-do leader of the posse, or the militia, his two men, the one found it and the other one, and he took off at a full ride. They headed out in that direction as fast. They just are just taking off in a cloud of dust.
I stick to Martin.
Okay. What about you, Samuel? What do you do
I've
when
been riding with him.
Well, Martin stays. Martin is staying with this group. His two men are taken off.
Martin is went with them.
Nope, he's
Right.
he's sending them up ahead, but he wants to stay with Marshal Otis.
Yeah, but I said that when we got here, I've been riding with him.
Oh, okay. So you are kind of sticking to George Martin pretty closely.
Yeah,
Okay.
try to make a good impression on him.
I gotcha.
I think my horse rears when I spur. I don't think Marshall was expecting that.
I'd say that's probably fair. You weren't expecting them to take off and leave you all, and your horse wasn't expecting you to try to spur it on in that moment. What about Samuel? Is Samuel gonna stay with this group, or is he gonna try to follow the other group?
I'm gonna stay with this group.
Okay. All right. So the others disappear quickly. The rest of you, Marshal Otis kind of spurs on his horse, but you're obviously going at a much slower pace than the other two, who quickly sort of disappear into the distance, and leave you a little bit behind. But you follow in their wake, and it's pretty easy to follow their trail. You ride for probably about 5 miles or so along this kind of dirt road, following the very recent tracks of your comrades who are riding ahead. And after a little bit, after about the 5 miles, you kind of come up over a rise and you see a farmhouse, but you can see that some of the windows in the front have been smashed. You see some of the livestock, some of the livestock, like some of the pigs and chickens, have been shot and are dead in their pens. A couple of them are roaming about in the front yard and have been either shot or injured in somehow. It looks like the front door of the house has been kicked open, and there's a barn kind of off to the back of the house as you're riding up. What do you all want to do?
I'm going for the house.
I'm
Okay.
going to the house.
You also notice you don't see the other two men that rode ahead or their horses in the area currently either.
And we wouldn't have caught up to them, right?
Not unless they were really slow.
I'm sticking to Posse and I take out my binoculars. I should have binoculars. And look out, is there anything there?
Roll me a spot hidden and with an advantage die for the binoculars.
Fail.
Yep. So you look around with them in kind of all directions except the one you came from, and you don't see any sign of anyone about currently. The group makes their way toward this little farm, heading for the farmhouse with the kicked-in front door. So when you get to the front door, it's very quiet. You don't hear any sound of anybody inside or anything. The only sounds you hear are those of the injured animals that are still alive.
Try and do like a basic sweep to see if there's anybody in here.
I pull a revolver to do it with.
Okay. So the two of you dismount and sort of head for the front door first. George Martin dismounts. He pulls out his gun and kind of he ties his horse off to a post a little bit outside the front door and sort of like looks about, keeping his eyes open, looking at the surrounding horizon and things like that, just kind of making sure nothing's going to get the drop. He looks over at Baxter and he says, I'm going to watch the ridge over here, son. You want to watch the ridge on the other side? Let me know if you see anything coming.
Yes, sir. And I hop off my horse with my rifle. I don't tie him up because in case there's a chase.
Okay.
I can quickly.
So you've got your horse so that you can ride out quickly if you need to. You see Henry Potts dismounts and he quickly rushes over to Jake Parker and sort of helps him get off his horse before Parker kind of falls because he looks like he's going to slide right out of the saddle. And Henry kind of hands Parker the gun and is sort of like pointing out like how he should point it and kind of hold it, get it in his shoulder. And he's like, just stand here and try not to shoot yourself. And then he also takes his rifle and he sort of shadows and stays a little ways behind Marshal Wallace and Samuel. And Marshal Otis goes along with you to go into the house. So when you do, and you kind of move into this little farmhouse, it's not very big. It's just one floor. The front door opens onto like a small living room. You can see a little kind of kitchen area off to the left. And then there's like 2 doors that lead into bedrooms off to the right. And the inside of the house looks like it's been ransacked and torn up. Any furniture is either tipped over or broken in the main living space. Looking through into the bedrooms, open doors that also look like they were kicked in. You could see like the beds have been overturned. The mattresses look like they've been ripped open. And the kitchen's a complete mess. Tables tipped over, food strewn about. But you don't see any signs of any people in here. There's also, looking around, you don't see any blood or anything like that either, though. It's just a mess.
And there's nobody here, huh?
You see no one currently inside the house, and it is very quiet in here.
Well, someone must have been looking for something, I guess.
Can I attempt to see if there was something specific they were looking for? Or if there were like any signs of struggle.
Sure. Roll me just a spot roll, or if you want to roll a psychology roll to see if you can maybe piece something together that maybe happened here.
It's better for me to just look for clues.
Sounds good.
It doesn't matter. I can't roll anything below like 60.
I'd like to think that Marshal Wallace is struggling because the whole bank robbery has kind of set you on edge. After your nightmare from the night before, you are very sort of off kilter today. Like, there is definitely just so much going on with Marshal Wallace today, as far as probably in the emotional highs and lows, that you are struggling.
Well, and Julia,
Mm-hmm.
like, as much as this is the stuff Marshal Wallace lives for, she feels conflicted leaving Lance and Julia back in town.
It's fair. I will also have Samuel roll me a spot check, since you are also searching in the house as well. And
Why don't you get an extreme success? Because that would be like... Okay. Did we just literally roll the same roll?
And Marshal Otis does not fare much better looking about in here. You all are having a very hard time finding any sign of what could have happened to the family inside the house, aside from it being wrecked the way it is. Baxter, outside the house, while you're keeping watch, why don't you roll me another spot roll?
Okay. Is there any kind of high ground, or like what is that?
You don't see that there's any high ground, but there is a barn kind of off behind the house, and it does have like a second story where like the hayloft is, with like, you know, like a window at the top that looks out, that would give you a higher vantage point if you tried to look out.
Is it there? Is it there a vantage point to direction where I'm supposed to watch?
Roll me a luck roll. Let's find out. Let's see which way that barn window faces. Oh, definitely. It faces exactly in the direction that you're supposed to be keeping watch.
Perfect. I'm going there, and I'm using my binoculars.
All right. So you move toward the barn, and when you get to the barn door, like as you approach and come around to open the barn door to go in, you're met with a grisly sight. There is a man who has been nailed to the front of the barn door. As you come around the corner and just stop and see this man just hanging and blood just dripping down the front of the door. And the barn door is currently closed, and he's just nailed up on the door, just hanging there. He looks like he's dead.
Yeah, I'm calling to leave. I'm calling out, like I found something. Is he clothed?
He's wearing clothes, and
Okay.
so the blood has kind of seeped through his clothes. And as you kind of yell out for everyone else, you also notice on the opposite door, because the barn, there's the two doors that are currently shut. He's nailed to the one on the right. On the door opposite him, as you sort of step out and get a better look, it looks like someone has written something in his blood on the door next to him.
What
Oh
is
my God.
written there?
And it says, "You shall not question the Lord your God."
These are not Christians.
There is something nailed to the door alongside the words.
I'm taking a look at it.
You're pretty sure that's a tongue.
Oof.
And it looks probably like it's a human tongue. Your first best guess.
How at what stage of decomposition is the body?
Roll me a just roll me a medicine roll.
Medicine. I am not good at it.
You're not 100% sure. It doesn't look like it's been here that long. Like the blood looks like it's still kind of fresh. So, but you're not exactly sure how long it's been since this happened.
So they are not like stiffened up yet.
No. They're definitely
Okay.
not.
Okay, so yeah, then I'm opening his mouth to see if his tongue is still there.
Okay. You open his mouth and his tongue is definitely not there anymore.
Oof.
The rest of you hear Baxter yell from behind the house. What are you doing?
Going
We're
out
gonna
to
go
check it
towards-
out.
No. Check out whatever he's found. Or at least attempt to.
Okay. Yep. So you can quickly make your way out of the house. Actually, there is a back door out of the kitchen that will take you right out to where the barn is. And as you come out the back door of the kitchen, you see Baxter standing, and he's kind of opening the mouth and looking inside the mouth of this body that's hanging nailed to the barn door next to this message scrawled in blood.
Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa. What are you doing?
His tongue was removed.
So you need to stick your fingers in his mouth?
So I can check in. Because there, and I open it completely, is a masterpiece of these savages.
I'm gonna let you in on a thing about investigating. Sometimes there are very safe assumptions to make. Given this message, this man crucified to the barn door and the tongue nailed to the wall, it's safe to assume that the tongue belonged to the man whose blood, presumably, the message is written in.
Don't make assumptions.
You can never be too sure, Marshal.
I mean,
If you make assumptions, you're going to put up some innocent people in trouble. And you're supposed to...
I mean, if it bared actual investigation, I would have investigated.
And this is not an proper investigation.
So, do these bar doors swing open or slide open?
They look like they would open outward towards you on hinges.
Cool, I'm going to open the door.
Okay. You open the door. Do you open the one with the words on it, the one with the body on it, or do you open both of them?
I already did the that has a message on it.
Okay, so one of you opens one of you. That's good. All right. So Marshal Wallace and Baxter each open a door. Baxter, your door opens pretty easily. It's not weighed down by anything. Marshall, it takes a second, and as you pull on it, and for a second you think it's just from the weight of the body on the outside of the door, and then you swing the door open to discover that there is a body nailed to the inside of the barn door. The rest of you who have gathered around, so Samuel and George Martin and Marshall Otis, and Henry Potts, the school teacher, and Sister Michal are standing there.
Did we keep Parker far away from this?
Parker is standing by the horses currently, trying to keep a lookout.
Oh, okay, good. At least he follows directions. Okay, good.
So
I don't want to scar this man for life.
Well, as the doors open, so everyone sees another body that is also nailed to the door, but on the inside of the door. And as the light kind of filters in from the open doors, you see 3 bodies hanging from the rafters. you see two young men who appear to have been shot to death, and a middle-aged woman also who has been shot and looks like she has died. And as you're holding the door, Marshal, you hear from the person whose mouth Baxter had opened and looked to see if there was a tongue. You actually hear a gasping breath as the tongueless man appears to not be dead.
So, I got a dilemma here. Do I just put him out of his misery because he's going to be miserable if it probably die anyway? Or do I figure out how to get him off of the wall, which I think will cause more damage?
He like looks at you, kind of turns his head and looks in your direction.
Oh, you're the worst. Oh crap.
Now, I do have a question out of game.
Uh-huh.
Does everyone have that special thing where if you see dead bodies that it doesn't really affect you too badly?
Well, I'm a marshal.
I do.
The outlaws get it.
Yes. Okay, I just want to double check because that's why none of you have to roll for sanity right now. As disturbing as this is, you all have seen things.
Yup, this isn't my first crime scene.
Marshal Otis takes a look at the fellow on the door and says, "Well, I'll be damned, it's Jerry Hill."
Can I see if I can like find something inside the barn that I can like step onto to try to pull him off?
Sure. Looking around, there are things like you could find like an empty crate or something that you think you could step up on and sort of get him down. And you have plenty of people to maybe try to help you get him off the door.
Yeah, let's get him down.
I wanna know. What is the reaction of the man who's on the wall when he sees Marshal Otis?
He doesn't really have a reaction to Marshal Otis. He just looks like he's in pain, and just he seems like you can see kind of tears coming down his eyes, but you get the impression he's trying to talk. Obviously, he's not going to be able to, but he's trying to talk to you all.
Yeah, well, let's get him down and make it easier for him to ease his pain a little bit.
All right, so with everyone's help, Marshal Otis will help you all, and the school teacher, Henry Potts, also comes over and kind of helps you. You are able to sort of extricate him. Henry finds, he's able to find like a tool in the barn, and he's like, give him something to bite on. And he kind of removes the nails to kind of help get him down. And the man kind of groans in pain, and he does lose consciousness for a second, but comes back to shortly thereafter as you get him down and get him to the ground.
Let's get him some water and see if we can hear what he has to say.
I probably have like a water skin or a flask that I have filled with water because I've sworn off drinking for the rest of forever. That I think I just kind of start to pour a little bit into his mouth as I'm like holding him up, covered in blood again, because of course I am. Real glad I changed my shirt, guys.
Not sure why you wasted the time.
Because I didn't expect to see a man nailed, crucified to a barn door.
That is
I
a
thought
curious.
I was done with victims.
Well, that leads the question of who did this and if they're related to the bank robbers.
Well, hopefully if we can staunch the bleeding a little bit, get him some water. And out of character, this is his farm, right?
If you like ask about that, Marshal Otis says, no, Jerry Hill, he's can you see me now?
You got out.
Am I back?
Yeah,
No.
kind of.
computer's gonna be the death.
Nope, you're still not back.
Not now?
Okay, now you're
Yes.
back.
All right, see. I have no idea what my computer's up to. We're gonna have to have a talk later. All right, so, so Marshal Otis says to you, "No, this is Jerry Hill. He's a small-time crook. He usually rides with this ex-sergeant got himself tossed out of the army named Thomas O'Neill, and they're usually involved in cattle rustling for the most part."
Well, that's odd.
So it's possible he got what was coming to him?
I
It
mean,
is possible that he was part of the bank robbery, and whoever
This is
came...
a lot for a small time crook.
And
I mean,
whoever
did they
done
talk
this-
about restitution for being human? I don't know. I've never seen this Reverend Smythe dude. It's just stories I've heard. Or this Reverend... She wouldn't say dude. Reverend Smith guy. Smythe. Well, we should still try to see if we can get any other information. Does anyone care to see if we recognize any of the bodies inside?
well, before you go in, so you were giving the gentleman some water. So Jerry,
Right.
he will drink. You know, he kind of cringes in pain a little bit, but he will drink and then spit out some water to kind of clear out his mouth. And he's still like trying to sort of communicate with you all, and he looks around kind of helplessly and kind of like moves his hand like,
I was gonna
Kind
say,
of a piece of paper.
yeah. Can we
Oh,
see
when
if
I-
there's like a journal or like an accounting book inside the farmhouse or anywhere?
you can roll me a luck roll to see if you found one. And Baxter, what was that you wanted to say?
when I looked into his mouth, was the tongue still bleeding?
It looked like it had kind of stopped bleeding for the most part. I mean,
I
it-
can't
yeah,
roll a success to save my life. Anybody got a notebook? Anybody?
you hear a voice from over by the horses. Well, I got a notepad and a pencil, and you hear footsteps start heading in this direction.
Somebody go meet him before he comes over
I'm
here.
gonna meet up with him before he comes too close.
Okay. He just rounds where the horses are and starts heading your direction when Samuel, you quickly intercept little Jake Parker, who is digging in a little satchel bag and draws out a small notebook and a pencil, and he kind of holds them out to you. What's going on? Everything okay?
More or less. Do me a favor and stay over yonder and keep a lookout for us until, give a holler if you see anybody running by.
Okay. I will give a holler if I see anybody. Yep, I'll do that. You'll have to let Edith know I'm being helpful.
Yes, you are.
Okay. He kind of tries to
As they-
crane his neck past, but Samuel, you're much taller than
Yeah.
him, and
Just
you could
gonna stand
easily
in the
kind of
way.
move in his way.
Yep.
As this happens, I'm going to back into the barn and I go into the rafters and look out for the direction I'm supposed to first.
Okay. So
With my
Baxter
binoculars.
goes over and climbs into the hayloft, while the rest of you bring a notepad and paper over to this gentleman who is sitting on the ground, kind of leaning up against the barn on the outside, waiting, still sort of, he's taking little bits of water at a time.
I hand over the paper to him.
Should I roll the spot hidden?
Yes, go for it.
How many advantage die?
Oh, with one advantage die because you're using your binoculars.
And spotting out from the higher advantage point.
Oh, yeah, so we'll deal with two. Okay, good. So I will tell you what you see momentarily. Meanwhile, inside or down in front of the barn, he writes down on the paper and he says, let's see. He writes down, Smythe said direct the place. And he shows it to you.
What happened to the family?
He writes, Smythe shot one of the sons. I asked him to stop and not hurt the rest. He came after me.
Hence the don't question the Lord your God on the wall.
He looks
And
at it.
ask him,
He looks
where's
at you, Samuel.
Smythe now?
He writes, said they were going to go to the fort.
Anybody know what fort he's talking about?
Marshal Otis and goes to answer, and George Martin says, oh, it must be the old Spanish fort up in the mountains. Yep, it's pretty far up, and it's been abandoned a long time. I imagine it's probably a good spot for someone to hole up after something like what they done.
Great. What do you want to do with these? What do you want to do with them, Marshal?
Well, he's not in any condition to travel.
Can we set him up in the house?
Could do that. Could set him up in a... We should check on the rest of them in there and see. This, he points at the barn door that's open, and points at the body that's on the inside of the barn door. He says, well, that's Mr. Hobbs. He's obviously the owner of the farm here. He kind of points in at the woman in the barn and the two younger boys on the ground that were shot. He says, that's his wife and his two sons. And then he points at the three bodies in the rafters and he says, I know those three, they worked for Mr. Hobbs.
Marshal Otis, I'm going to be real honest with you. I'm not sure anyone related to what's happened here or at the bank is making it out of this alive.
Well, after seeing this, I'm pretty concerned about just how dangerous this group actually is. I mean, it's one thing, rob a bank. A lot of people do it, but I mean, what's the purpose of this? Why did they kill this family?
Make a point that we should all be God-fearing.
I don't know if this has anything to do with fearing God. This is evil, if you ask me.
Right, and that's why I'm not sure they're worth trying to save. Also, I don't think they're going down without a fight.
I don't think so either. I think we definitely have a fight on our hands. I mean, if we do take anybody in, we'll definitely put them on trial, but at this point, my biggest concern is that we stop them and that none of us is hurt or killed in the process, if we can help it. George Martin's like, nope, we should just kill them all. We should just, when we find them, there should be, just put them all out of our misery, because we don't need any of that kind back in town. That's the kind that brings and breeds trouble, is people like that. And I think that
this was that vigilante justice I was talking about.
This is justice I'm talking about. There's no vigilante in it. It is justice. They have killed an innocent man and his family.
You are not the law.
I beg to differ.
You are a militia, but that does not make you the law.
I say that my money and my ability to finance and arm my men makes me more powerful than the law in this neighborhood.
She just stares at him.
He stares right back. He seems like he is very, like, used to getting his way and demanding what he wants.
She's real tempted to shoot at him right about yesterday. But that doesn't make her any better than the point she's trying to make. Can she get into his face? How tall is he?
He's about probably 6'3". He's
So
a
my
big
size-
guy. Yeah, he's a big guy too. Like, what's your size, Marshall?
80.
You've got an 80. Let me double check. Let's see. Where are you? George Martin. He is also a size. So you two are like very similar in height and kind of just overall physical presence.
And not dwarf him. It
Doesn't
won't
mean
work.
I can't attempt to intimidate him.
I wanna-
I don't-
I want to ask
don't
the,
think-
the guy with no tongue if how many men does Reverend Smythe have with him?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a thing we should
That's
know.
a good question. All right. He
While all this glaring at each other's going down.
Proverbial mine is bigger is going on. She doesn't like vigilante justice, money or no.
So he writes the number 8 on the piece of paper.
And that is how many you've seen, or
That's
know
how many
it.
he's seen.
Yeah, he nods and points at the 8.
How many do we have?
So currently there are the 4 of you, so Sister Michal and the 3 of you. There is Marshal Otis, there is Henry Potts, George Martin, Cliff and Ralph, his 2 men who are currently not with you. You haven't seen them yet. And Jake Parker.
Well, he doesn't count.
So we almost outnumber them.
Well, no, we do. By 1. I counted 9 other than Jake. I counted 10, including Jake Parker.
So we have the 3 of us. So we have 7.
There would be 10 of you with Sister Michal, the 3 of you. That's 4. And then there's Henry Potts, George Martin, his 2 men, which would bring it up to 4. Jake Parker and the Marshal Otis. So there should be 10 of you total when you're all together. Which I will say, Baxter, while you're up in the top of the barn, up in the hayloft looking out, you do see 2 riders coming back in this direction from the north.
Do I get a clear sight of their clothes and what they're wearing?
Yes,
Do I recognize them?
You can make out that they are the 2 gentlemen, Cliff and Ralph, the 2 cowboys that were with George Martin, heading back in this direction. You also notice that you can see it looks like Cliff has like a shoulder wound. You can see where there's some blood on his shirt, as if maybe they've gotten into some kind of scrape. But they were riding back, not as quickly as they rode off in the first place, but they were coming back at a pretty good clip, heading in the direction of the farmhouse.
I'm heading down and ask the situation. And I will say, that's the case, that they are holed up in a fort, straight up assault is pointless. It will be slaughtered. We need more firepower.
George Martin looks in the direction of Baxter and says, I like this kid. He knows what he's talking about. We need to come in, guns blazing, and we need to just take these people out. They are no good. The only justice for them is to put them down.
Well, the point is that even if we try to cut them peacefully, that's not going to happen. We need to somehow break their morale or wipe them out, whichever the case.
I am all for wiping them out.
I asked from the militia guy that what kind of weaponry do you have in your back at Shade? Do you have any like real firepower?
Well, I mean, my men are all armed fairly well with revolvers and rifles and things of that nature, and given a little bit of time, I could definitely put together maybe another dozen or so more men that would be willing to deal this justice out just on my word alone.
I'm not talking about numbers. I'm talking about real weapons. Gatling guns, anything like dynamite, anything like that.
Well, I can definitely check. I'm sure we have dynamite at the mine. Gatling guns, I mean, I've always wanted one, but I haven't had a chance to purchase one of my own. But we may be able to get our hands on some dynamite out of the mine pretty easily. And if not, perhaps he looks in the direction of the horses. Maybe Parker and his wife have some in the store that we could obtain.
Are
we need to? We need.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Like my point is that either, as I said, break the morale and they give up, which is ideal outcome. But we need to break through their defenses first before we can do any of that.
Marshal Otis looks at you and says, "We also have to worry about little Margaret. And we don't want to put her in harm's way by doing something crazy. I mean, if we can't ascertain exactly where she is amongst them, we don't want to blow her up by accident or get her shot."
But as long as they are in the fort, they can just pick us out one by one, and that's that.
I mean, maybe we should continue on and get a lay of the land, not trying to confront them, but just see exactly what we are dealing with. Because I mean, I personally have not seen this fort for myself. I've heard about it from various people who, like prospectors and things that have been up into the mountain, but I'm not familiar with the layout of that area myself. So perhaps we should continue on and see what we're dealing with, try to keep our distance and not warn them that we're coming. And then if we think that we can't handle it, get help or send some people back to bring help while a small group of us goes in. I don't know. This has become a much bigger situation than I thought it would be when we left town earlier.
I feel like if we go right now, we risk the mayor's daughter's dead. If we can send scouts out there, like one or two people to go quietly and see what we're really up against, that's going to be better in the long run. Because right now, if they've taken a fort, I'm assuming she's seen forts at some point in her travels.
Probably.
Right now, they're in a heavily defensible position that the 10 of us, which is really the 8 of us, can't get through without knowing more of what exactly we're up against, so that we can form a plan to keep the number of casualties as low as possible.
Samuel, you were in the war, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And have you been in these kind of forts?
Probably. I don't know.
I feel like you've probably seen one. Whether or not it's this specific one.
I'll say, Samuel, why don't you roll me, you can either roll me an intelligence roll, or if you wanted to roll luck to see, whichever's better. And I'll give you an advantage die because you do have some experience in the war and things like that. You've traveled a bit.
Intelligence.
Nice. All right, so you know that they sort of refer to this as a Spanish fort. So it's probably older. Based on the terrain and stuff here and it being in the mountains, your guess would be that they probably used the surrounding features to sort of help in the construction. It's probably built with a tall, maybe flat cliff face behind it. Probably no way for it to be attacked from behind. You would guess that given the materials to build from, it's likely made out of stone, with, wooden stuff thrown in for things like the gates or other building features.
Ports.
If it's a Spanish fort, it's been here long enough that perhaps it's not, your guess would be maybe, unless they've done some work to it, it may not be in complete repair. Like, it may have weaknesses due to just aging in this area and being in the mountains, and the mountains do get some heavy rains and things like that up this way. So there could be flaws in the construction at this point just from age and things like that. But yeah, your best guess would be probably something along those lines.
All right. Well, from my time and based on what you guys are saying, unless they have some sort of expert mason with them, the fort could have aged poorly since the war. But there'd really only be one point to go at it. This would, probably built into the mountainside with no, other routes in other than the front.
Well, Marshal Otis looks around at you all. I'm all for getting a better look at what we're dealing with, and maybe giving that little girl a better shot at making it out of this in one piece, unlike the rest of these people. I mean, based on what he done here, he must have some reason he wanted to take her along with him, because he certainly didn't need anybody else. He just slaughtered these people.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's going to use her like an insurance policy.
You may be right.
Okay, so also we might get some information on what we dealing with. The two men that went off are returning. And one of them is wounded, unfortunately.
And as Baxter is letting you know that, you can hear the sound of the horses distantly coming back, heading back in this direction.
They're not. You said they aren't going nearly as fast, right?
No, Baxter noted that they were not riding out at a full gallop, like coming back this way. Like, probably at this point, if they continued to ride the horses like that, they might do serious damage to the horses over such long distance.
Gotcha.
But they do eventually, as you all are talking, come riding into view and sort of tie off their horses out front by where Mr. Parker is kind of still trying to keep the other horses kind of contained and sort of keep a lookout. It's like you hear the horses and they're already sort of riding around the front of the house and leaping out of the saddles when Mr. Parker's like, oh, wait, no, I know you two. We have company. It's those other two gentlemen.
Keep doing a good job.
Okay. Thank you.
Shouldn't we see what they have to say?
I mean,
mean,
They're
they'll
gonna have
likely
more
come.
information than any of the rest of us.
Mm.
So Cliff and Ralph come around the side of the house, walking in your direction, uh, and sort of slow down as they see the gentleman on the ground and the door open and kind of the massacre in the barn. And they sort of slow and look at one another and look back at you all. And Cliff says, "What the hell happened in there?" He looks around at everyone's faces.
Atrocity.
Nothing pleasant.
No. We when we rode up on here, there was two of them just heading out, just kind of leaving the property here. So we sort of gave chase and kind of chased them north a ways. But Ralph over here took a glancing blow to the shoulder. They fired on us, and they managed to kind of get away. We sort of gave them the go, since we weren't sure if we were going to catch up with their comrades up there, and we didn't want to get stuck in an ambush and get shot. So we kind of backed off and figured we'd head back and sort of regroup with y'all. But there was two of them that were sort of maybe like the back lookouts, or the cleanup, I guess, for this mess that's here. We didn't see the rest of them though. What's going on here? What they did this, I assume.
Yep. Looks like it.
And this man told us that they were heading to a fort.
Oh yeah, up by the lake, up in the mountains. We heard of that.
Mm. We thought that we would send two-man party to scout out and what exactly we're dealing with. While rest, what was the idea? That rest go back or stay here?
Marshall just kind of looks around. He says, "Well, if anyone's going back, they should take this one back with them. If not, maybe we should leave the little one." And he points out toward the horses out front of the house. "Maybe we should leave him in the house with this one until we head back. Maybe keep the number." What's that, son?
I do not think we should go in this this such a big party. If we go east, we get there, they will likely see us. I would suggest either 2 or 3 men that go. That way there's a small chance for them to notice us.
George Martin sort of steps up again, and he says, "That's a good idea, my boy, but I think that for a little ways at least we should take a larger group, because the fort itself, it's quite a ways up in the hills, if I remember correctly. It's my best guess is, I mean, we're talking about a good 15-20 mile ride into the hills to get to this old fort where they're heading. It's going to take them a bit to get there and a bit for us to follow. I think that it might be better, just in case, to have the numbers closer in if something should happen, and those that kind of go in to sort of scout this out need assistance, that we're within range of maybe hearing a gunshot or something, that we could ride in and help if anything were to go wrong. Because, not to mention, we don't want any of these criminals to get away. We need to make sure that we take them out one after the other until they are all dead, because that is what they deserve."
Right now, we don't have any chance against them. They will, as I said, they would pick us out, and they have far too great of a dispensable position. Even though this fort is run down, it's still more than adequate in their favor.
Well, I could take my boys back, and we could collect up a handful more men and ride up And can you hear me?
No, you are cutting out.
You're Robo Jeanette.
How about now?
What?
Okay,
Yes.
This is killing me. So he says, if I take my boys back and we bring reinforcements, we'll be about a day to a day and a half behind. If you know, if the group that goes up and investigates is heading back because they don't think that they can take care of it, then we can deal with that then. But that way, if there is a chance and having extra people on hand to deal with it will be helpful. We won't be far behind bringing extra numbers along to assist in this.
Otis, do you have any extra firepower?
Well, I'm
Access to extra firepower?
not like the bigger guns that you were discussing. I mean, we've never had a need for that kind of armaments in Shade. Shade's a small town. I mean, we have guns, but not big guns like, I mean, what you're talking about is like army issue.
They have army issue stuff right now.
Well, I mean, I don't know that there's any big weaponry up in that fort. I mean, as far as I know, up until they decided to take possession of it, was abandoned. No one was there. It hadn't, as far as I know, been used in a very long time. So they may only have what arms that they brought with them.
Or, I don't know about you, if this is as far as you say it is, it's possible they didn't move anything out of it. Or very little out of it.
Well, even if they left it, the things that were there before would be so old. I mean, they'd be taking a chance on blowing themselves up if they tried to use guns, big guns or anything like that were in disrepair.
I don't think they're real concerned about killing anyone.
He looks at the tongueless gentleman. You're probably right.
Is there anyone in Shade that has any kind of specialty firearms or anything like that?
I mean, I would have to inquire. Like I said, I don't know that anybody in town would have need of something like that, my friend. It's
special collector.
No one comes to mind. I mean, the only one with that kind of money would be the mayor, and I don't know that he's quite the gun collector. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, he doesn't strike me as the type.
I mean, I'm all for maybe we take a smaller group of us and head up to investigate what's going on and to see what we actually are dealing with. And perhaps we do send Mr. Martin here back with his fellows to collect some more bodies to bring up so that we have reinforcements should we need them. We're kind of going into this with very little information. That makes me nervous.
I think you should head back with the majority of the group.
What, me?
I don't think we should leave Shade without some sort of law that isn't the militia.
He gives you a look. Do you want to try to persuade him to go back?
Oh, yes, stupid old man. You're going back because I said so.
So
probably my last roll for the night. Critical success, because of course it is.
So do you give him like a rousing speech about law enforcement and how he's the only thing keeping this little town from going over the edge into, darkness?
I think it's more of a look and then going, at this point we need to keep the morale up in the city, and we could use some more firepower and or men but we also should do some reconnaissance, and we all can't do everything. And I think
Okay.
as the official marshal or sheriff, whatever you want to call yourself, of Shade, the people need you now more than ever.
It does. Like I asked from me the what was the guy's name on the that's sitting here?
Oh, the one that had his tongue cut out?
Yeah.
His name was Jerry Hill.
Yeah, he was the cattle thief. Yeah, I'm not asking them. I'm asked because Samuel, Marshall, did you find any telegram device or anything like that here?
What kind of device?
Telegram device, like the did
Do we have one
Because-
back in town?
and does I'm asking Samuel and our Marshal. Like, did they find a one
Oh,
inside the house?
no.
Or-
I don't think any of us ever went looking for a.
Yeah, I will say that you definitely did not find and there's no like lines or anything for that would send a signal back. So this farm is kind of set off by itself. The only way you think to get communication back and forth between here and town is actually to ride into town.
Can we clean up the house and kind of make this our forward base? Since the people that own it clearly don't need it anymore.
I will say sure. I will say if
I think I'll suggest that to the marshal, like maybe we all ride back now, get supplies to take up here, try to get some. We need more information about what's up there. And if it's as long of a ride as you say it is, I hate making plans.
Okay. So here's my idea.
Okay.
We go back and take the cattle thief with us and bring him to the doctor. And obviously put him in jail or and everything like that. And we come back with some reinforcements and firepower. What if we can take our hands on? And it needs to be something significantly powerful what we have now. We need, and when we come back, we send a small team back into the fort, and they set up there and recon the area. Send one back, and went. Okay, so instead 4. That is more realistic. And with 3 of them staying at the fort and start to make preparations for the siege. They sent one back, inform us what they found, and we go to the fort and prepare for the siege.
How does everybody feel about Baxter's plan?
I mean, it's the best one we've got right now.
Samuel?
Sure, it's as good as any other plan we got, so
Okay. So you're all going to ride back to town and gear back up and get more people and then head back out into the direction of the fort is the plan. And then send a small force in to do reconnaissance basically. Okay.
Yes.
All right, I think on that note, with that plan in place, we'll close out with the group mounting up to head back into town, probably cleaning up and taking a little bit of time to maybe bury the family and things like that before you go. Um, Keeping Mr. Parker well out of the way so he sees none of this. And
Baxter, go distract him.
so yeah, I think with that we'll close out this session with you all making your plans for this ride into the mountains to find this fort and to chase down these very sick, depraved individuals that you're looking for, who have bigger plans than just getting rich by robbing a bank, apparently. So yeah, with that note, yikes, why don't we go around if anyone has any plugs or anything like that, and then we'll close out for the evening. So, we'll go backward from where we started. So we'll start with you, Ray. Do you have any plugs?
Just my Kickstarter is ending tomorrow or
Ooh.
tomorrow morning, Eastern time. So in a few hours, basically.
Nice.
But we're successfully funded, which is crazy. But there's still time to jump in. It's Dreamworld Mercenaries on Kickstarter. Other than that, that's about it for me.
That's awesome. All right. And how about you, Anakdavi? What have you got going on?
Um, as of right now, nothing. Still trying to muster up the courage to start again that stream. Haven't found it yet. Yeah, and I'm actively pretty much everywhere on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, and that's about it.
Excellent. And Theater Nerd.
Hi, my name is Theater Nerd. Normally next week we would have my Blades in the Dark campaign, but instead I'm going to do 2 to 3 hour shows March 2nd. One of which being an unstreamed Harry Potter RPG, the second being Blades in the Dark, and the third being this show. Which normally every other Monday opposite this show is my Blades in the Dark show. And then every Wednesday, at least for the next 3 Wednesdays, I've got masks over on channel Other Doc on Wednesdays. And long story short, my character's mom is crazy and she just took a hit out on my character. So if you want to see what happens after that, join us. I believe it's another 7 Eastern show, but really just follow me on Twitter because that's the best place to keep up with all of this.
Excellent. And I'm Jeanette. You can find me at JEBriggs79 on Twitter. We run shows here every other Sunday, D&D 5e campaign. Every other Tuesday, Shadows over Stillwater, another Call of Cthulhu Old Western campaign. And this campaign every other Monday. So stop in and visit us anytime while we're playing. You can also find me Saturdays playing on my friend Scotty Hood's channel, doing some D&D 5e adventures. And other than that, thank you all for playing. It was a bit of a dark and twisted night in the Call of Cthulhu realm. My apologies. We'll see what happens next time. Things are definitely a little bit crazier than expected, I think, for everybody. And hopefully we will have Sister Michal back for our next session. I think the sister will have much to say in regards to the current situation. And I'm really looking forward to that as well. So, thank you everyone who watches now and later on YouTube. And thank you all again. I do enjoy playing with you. It's a fun time for the most part. So take it easy. Have a great week. And we'll see everybody soon. Good night. Bye.
Bye.